If you're building AI, you've got to answer one big question. Can you actually trust it? Today, we're going to break down the blueprint for creating an AI system that's not just powerful, but also genuinely trustworthy and completely auditable. It really all boils down to this one simple idea. Trust is traceable. If you can't show the chain of custody, from an AI's origin all the way to its final output, you really can't prove its integrity. This is the absolute foundation of real AI governance. And this gets right to the heart of the problem. A 2025 paper called Genetic Prompt Engineering plus Context Engineering by Nir Cohen points out that most AI agents today are basically built with no forensic trail. They're black boxes. You get a result, sure, but if something goes wrong, or maybe even more importantly, when you need to prove something went right, there's just no verifiable record. And that approach just completely fails at scale. So, building that forensic trail, it starts with our first pillar, the evidence of what an agent actually did. And we call this the run log. The run log is designed to answer that one critical question. I want you to think of it like the flight data recorder for your AI. For every single action the agent takes, it captures this immutable record of that specific operation. It gives you a perfect, complete picture of exactly what happened. So let's pop the hood and see what makes a run log so powerful. First, you've got a unique run ID, so you can find any event, anytime. Now, crucially, you have these hashes. Think of them as digital fingerprints. The PD hash confirms that the agent was using the correct safety rules, what we call its prime directives. Then, the input and output digests provide this tamper-proof seal on the data that went in and the artifacts that came out. And finally, you get to see exactly what the agent did with tool calls and, just as important, what it was prevented from doing with immune matches. It's the whole operational and security picture, all in one place. Okay, so a run log gives us a perfect snapshot in time. But what about the agent itself? How did it evolve? How did it get here? Well, that brings us to our second pillar, the lineage chain. This is the question of lineage. And if a run log is the flight recorder, then the lineage chain, well, that's the aircraft's full manufacturing and maintenance history. It's basically the Git history for your AI, tracking its entire family tree from one version to the very next. Now, the real power here comes from that phrase, cryptographically linked. All this means is that each new version of an agent, the child, is mathematically tied to its parent. It creates this digital tamper-evident seal, so you can be absolutely certain that the history you're looking at is the real history, all the way back to the beginning. Let me show you how that works. A parent agent has its core safety rules, its prime directives. Now, before a new child agent can even be created, the system verifies the parent's hash, its digital fingerprint, to make sure those rules haven't been messed with. Only if that check passes does the child inherit those rules exactly as they were. A cryptographic link is locked, and bam, you have a secure chain. And this is so critical because it gives you a guaranteed rollback path to a known, trusted version if a new one ever starts to drift. Okay, so we know what an agent did, and we know where it came from, but how can we prove that an artifact it creates is authentic? Well, that's the job of our final pillar, the Provenance Manifest. This is the bottom line question for anyone in governance, risk, or compliance. I mean, how can you be absolutely certain that the agent running in production is the exact same one that was tested and approved? And how can you trust what it generates? The answer is a signed manifest. It acts like a notarized birth certificate for the agent. This little file contains the agent's exact version, the fingerprint of its safety rules, and its parent in the lineage chain. And the best part? It's all cryptographically signed. That gives you mathematical proof that this agent is exactly what it claims to be. No guesswork. But here's the thing. When you take all these artifacts together, the log, the chain, and the manifest, they give you something much more than just technical proof. They provide a direct, totally defensible link to formal governance. The data we're collecting maps right into controls and frameworks like the NIST AI risk management framework. And when an agent creates something, its provenance can be embedded using standards like C2PA, which is like a nutrition label for digital content, proving exactly where it came from. All right, let's pull all three of these pillars together. We're going to move from just having individual artifacts to having a complete assurance strategy. This is the principle of defense in depth. Look, no single control is going to solve everything. Instead, you create these overlapping layers of defense. Your lineage ensures safety rules are passed down. Your run logs give you detailed evidence of every single action. And your provenance manifests verify the authenticity of the agent itself. Together, they create a robust, resilient, and most importantly, a fully auditable system. So, what are the big takeaways here? What should you do? First, log every single run. Capture that flight data recorder telemetry for every action. Second, track the full lineage. Make sure every new version is cryptographically linked to its parent with that super important safety rule #check. And third, sign all your artifacts. Use manifests to provide that undeniable proof of your agent's identity and its origin. And that just leaves us with one final thought. As you're getting your next AI agent ready for deployment, just ask yourself this. If something goes wrong, or if an auditor comes knocking at your door, do you have the evidence to prove what happened, where your agent came from, and that it operated exactly as intended? If the answer is no, it's time to build your audit trail.